Ooh, don't look at that. Okay. So this is my friend Ivy. I've known her for about 5 years, and she's one of my really good friends, and I trust her opinion. She's brilliant. She's really smart. She graduated from UCI almost a year ago, right? A year ago.
Yeah.
And
And
now
now
we're in grad school at UCR, right? And you're going for
higher ed administration and policy.
so administration. Yes. You work in
Yes, but for
the
post-secondary education.
yeah. Okay. Cool. Cool. And just so everybody is aware, we are Christian. Yes.
Yes,
You have
yes.
hold Christian beliefs. How strong are those beliefs? Did you go to
Um,
church all the time? Do you continue to go to church all the time? Do you worship in your own manner?
Yeah, so I grew up in the faith. I was born into a Christian household. We always joke because I've been going to Harvest Christian over in Riverside since I say I was in utero because my parents were going there before I was born. And that is where we continue to serve and worship and tithe. Growing up, I actually went to Bethel Christian School up into seventh grade. And then I
A long
transferred over.
time.
It was a kindergarten to first semester of seventh grade. It was a long time. I went to school with the same 20 kids the whole time. A few cycle through, but the main 17 kids were there.
Nice
Um,
exposure.
yeah. Well, then I transferred schools and I got thrown into this huge public school, intermediate school, seventh grade.
Oh, middle school.
Yeah. So
My heart breaks for you.
yeah, that was when it showed me that but I'm happy I did it because it showed me that everything else that's going on in the world, I felt that I had such a foundational, a Christian foundation that I really wasn't going to be easily swayed into something else. But I felt like I also needed to experience other, the school I was at was very, what can I say, very diverse in ethnicity and race in general, but it wasn't diverse in religion and
College.
sexuality.
Yeah.
So I learned a lot of that, but still having my Christian views. And something that I strongly take is, treat others how you want to be treated. And it's not my place to judge somebody. Only God could judge. So what judgments of mine should I inflict on somebody else?
Very true. And that's something I see as well. Not obviously, I don't come from a Christian home. It's not, I only started going to church when I was 19, 20 years old on my own. And I still don't go consistently. But it's nice to see that you have that foundation, and it's good to know that I can give that to my kid. Because I think about these things a lot for Ellie, and should I be teaching her these things? Should I be talking to her about these things? And we do here and there, but I always wonder, should I go full force into it? And to know somebody who did go full force into it and has such strong convictions about a lot of things, because I know how independent and strong-willed you are, it's nice to know that I could give that to my child if I choose to do so, and I'm hoping to do so. So it's nice to hear. Thank you for that. I didn't know that.
Currently though, despite coronavirus, pandemic, closing churches, Harvest is online. So we did, a couple Sundays here and there will go online, but I'm not as strictly about going to church as much as I was,
You're off
in high school.
But you're awfully busy though, right? It's not like you're just sitting around choosing not to go. You're always moving on to the next thing.
Exactly. And I always by the end of the day, I keep my relationship with the Lord by praying at least just once a day, kind of checking in. And having that personal relationship, I feel, is more important than a church relationship. I feel like a church relationship supports your belief, but you have to have it in yourself. If you don't have it in yourself, just going to church is a cover up.
Yeah, going to church is look at me, I'm playing. Yeah. Look at me, yes, I do, but do I really, kind of thing? Exactly. But I totally agree. I feel like my relationship with the Lord is definitely more personal. I'm not a person who's very outwardly emotional anyways. I don't really like, I smile and I laugh a lot, but you know me, I don't do hugs. I don't touch a lot of other people. Like, it's just not. So my relationship with the Lord is a lot more like that, where it's more in my car when it's me and me alone, and where I have time to decompress and talk and communicate and stuff like that. So I agree 100%. Organized religion is it's a lot to take in when you're in a big capacity like that.
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes organized religion kind of, at such a grand scale, it kind of makes you wonder whose interpretation is teaching this and how much of their biases are involved in their interpretation with
Very
what
true.
they're teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like, especially to like political climates sometimes start to play in. And I've gone to other churches in the past, and I've gone to even like Baptist churches.
Oh, wow.
They're Christian, but Baptist.
They're a little bit more spunky, right? Like they're in it, right? But I don't know how else to describe it without being like.
No, they were definitely in it, and I feel like that is something that has shown me that as long as you kind of have to take the message at its base value, and go from there. And that's why I also think it's important to have your own relationship and your in a way your own interpretations,
your own understanding. You're right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I totally agree. So actually my first real question for you is, do you fear death? Is it something that you're always anxious about? Is it on your mind a lot?
So this is actually really funny you asked me this, because I had to participate in like a bias survey the other day, and there was like 15 death questions to get started, and that was one of them. And it was weird, but it was for school, so trust.
I gotta go. Gotta do it.
I don't. I wouldn't say that it's like seldom in my mind. I feel like I probably think about death as much as the average person, but I feel like it's all around us. Somebody's dying and being born every 30 seconds, right?
Or
less. Like it happens. I mean, I could get in my car and get hit by some drunk driver running a red light. And
Abby, don't you say that.
No. But you know what I mean? Like, that's, to me, like, I don't know when it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I feel like there is no reason to add stress, especially if, I say me and the Lord are cool, right? Like, he's in my heart.
I know him. I love him. We tight.
Right? Like,
there's nothing for me to worry about.
Like, so if it happens, like, I feel confident in going to heaven. So, if it were to happen, it happens. I mean, in my understanding, heaven's supposed to be better than here. So
but there's a lot of different perspectives on that too. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they showed me the perspective of, well, aren't we in hell? Isn't this hell on earth? And what we're supposed to go to next, the better thing? So
yeah.
Like, there's a ton of different viewpoints out there. So I'm always kind of like, whoa.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like the way that I look at it is, heaven is supposed to be better, or if not, I don't, like in Harvest, the way that they've always kind of taught it, or like the pastors there have always been like, you'll see people that have moved on.
It's peaceful, right? Like
it's peaceful. Like
it's peaceful. It's not like
you're not supposed to be in pain, like things like that. So that to me is like, well, why would I fear that? And then, I believe if there's heaven, then there's a hell. Obviously, I'm not one of those people where I'm like, everything's great and everything's awesome and it doesn't matter. Like, so if I feel like I'm good with the Lord and he's in my heart and I've asked him, to forgive me and, repent, and I, die tomorrow, or I die 30 to 90 years from now, who knows? Maybe I'll be a what do they call people that turn 100? Centurions? Like, it's,
no, I'm not gonna say it.
Like I feel like I shouldn't fear that, because what's the alternative to there not to, like,
Why would I
Nothing.
fear death when it's better than what I'm in right now?
Yeah, exactly. Like I'm not even saying that like, oh, I would want to die. Like it's
Yeah, it's when it happens, it happens. It's not I'm gonna
yeah.
intentionally do it with my like.
And the logical side of me, I'm a very logical type of a person. Um, where I gotta go some way. Nobody lives forever. So why are you gonna be scared of the inevitable?
Mhm.
Like at the end of the day, and if I feel like two people that are extremely terrified and fear death, I feel like sometimes maybe they need to like analyze their reasoning for the fear.
Mhm.
Is it
The
just
follow-up question I had to this was, if so, what's your reasoning for being scared of death? But you're not, so okay.
no, you know,
I don't think I am either. I often worry about it, but it's not
mhm,
fearful. I just, since having Ellie, I worry about what's going to happen to her.
yeah.
It's
And
not really about myself. It's more about, is she going to be okay? I got to make sure that she's going to be taken care of. If it happens while she's young or at any point, is she going to be okay without me? Because
yeah,
if my mom were to go, I don't think I'd be okay without her. So,
that's like
you know,
my thing too. Is I fear more death for like my family members, like people
it's got
that
to
I
happen
can
to
think
you.
about right now and like burst into tears if something were to happen to them.
Mhm.
That's I fear more that setting, but I feel like that's more like the humanistic, like I love these people and I need them here
I want them
with
with
me.
me. Mhm.
But if I were to leave,
It's
then I
different.
would it's different because it's like happening to me, but then it's also like that's the only fear that I have is what's gonna happen to the people that need me.
Mhm.
But now I'm all
Love you.
sad. I love you too. Talking about our mamas.
All right, I'm already like a mess.
Good thing like the way my room is set up, there's like a glare. I moved my desk because I would like stare out my window. But now there's like a glare behind me and I feel like it's like real dark in this corner.
That's okay. I feel real dark over here too.
Right?
Sorry, Dr. Amadi.
Hi.
Next question. Do you think people are more scared of death or the pain that is associated with dying?
I think the pain that is associated with death. I feel so. My background, my bachelor's degree is in sociology. So we do a lot of, that's basically the study of people in society. And I specified in social problems, diversity, and inequality.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times, like when you come across different cultures and different religions and different ethnicities, the one common link on the discussion of death is the pain associated with death or the fear of going to hell.
Yeah.
So I feel like people fear the pain that it caused or the pain that they'll feel in hell if they fear of that's where they're going. Does that make sense? You
It
could tell me if it
totally
doesn't.
makes sense. Like I get it, but I don't know. Like I'm trying to put myself in in those shoes. Like I don't think I would be scared, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm not in those shoes. I don't know.
Yeah. And that's like, I mean, I think too, a lot of times when somebody, like, I think when you talk about death too, like, I wouldn't want to go painfully. Like, if you're going to take me out, Lord, just take me out. Don't let me wither in pain.
Just make it quick, right?
Like, that's, so I definitely would, first logical thought process goes to the fear of pain versus the fear of death.
What about the fear of unknown? Because they're so used to this reality and they're the people that are here, the things that they do here, their routine here. Do you think it's more a fear of the unknown or a fear of pain?
Um, it's a
Or do
good
you think they're
question.
one and the same?
Yeah, I would
Being
feel
in
like it.
unknown is fearful.
Yeah, because I feel like anytime I've really had any kind of a conversation similar to this with anybody, even if it was like more of a casual uh, like kind of debate of religion, like, you know, especially with somebody who is like maybe they're atheists.
No.
Like the number one response is from people of those ideologies kind of are like, okay, let's like it's nothing. Like when you're done, you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Like you don't hang out, like you're not in hell. You're just done. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like it's one of the same. I really think that's kind of more of an individualistic question. I would vote overall, the general first thought is probably fear of pain. And then it more that somebody ponders on it, it probably meanders into the field of, well, plus, I don't know what's on the other side.
Yeah. It's just kind of like adding to the mountain of
Yeah.
fear that is like impending doom, kind of.
Yes. And I feel like, you know, it still is pretty individual. I'm sure if there was like a vote on it, it would probably be pretty split between fear and fear of unknown, or fear of pain and fear of unknown.
Because that's something like I'm so set in my routines. Like, you know me, I
Yeah.
have the same schedule. I try to keep the same school schedule.
Yeah.
Like, I have to keep my routine. So I think for me, not knowing, like, not fully grasping the idea of what's beyond this is what
Or
makes my
that,
heart race a little bit.
or just like that humanistic doubt of, well, what if there really isn't anything?
Mm-hmm.
Or what
What if
if,
it was all for nothing?
yeah.
Because I think that too sometimes. And I don't want to sound like a horrible person, but like I feel like that's a natural thing to cross a lot of people's minds. What if this was all for nothing?
It is. And I mean, like, personally, I feel like, you know, we're often in very strict religious settings, you're often told to not question or not ask what ifs. And I feel
Guilty
like
as
that,
full.
yeah, and that pulls a lot of people away from faith, away from having faith. And I feel like at the end of the day, you know, there's a verse in the Bible about having faith the size of a mustard seed.
Yeah.
Well, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, what else is your mind going? What else are you questioning? And I feel, especially to like the more education or the more like life that somebody has gone through, the more that they have questions, the more that they have learned. And in my setting, I have learned a lot in education, and I have learned a lot through the journey that I've taken. I mean, this is my 7.5, almost 8th year of school, out of high school
Of
now,
college, right? Mm-hmm.
college.
Because community
And
college first, and then UCI, and now UCR.
yep. And I've come across a lot of different opinions, and that's kind of why I brought up my sociology background. Sociology isn't just, it's kind of has an anthropological background as well. A lot of people actually get it confused because it's a study of society.
Yeah.
Part of society is religion. So I've come across a lot of settings where, you know, people have said like, I strayed away from my family because I wasn't able to ask these what if questions. And I welcome people to tell me their own opinions, because not that I really think that it will change mine. I feel like I'm where I'm at. It's very logical setting for me. This is what I've grown up in. Like, I've read the Bible, you know, of course there's like different translations, but it's like, for me, like, you know, the idea of the Book of Mormon, a human man wrote that. And you know what I mean? Like, in his kind of a terms. And I feel like there's a lot of, I don't know, what's the word for it? You know what I mean? There's just a lot of like what ifs out there in general. And I think it's fair to question. And I think it's fair that as long as you have a basic belief system, that it kind of keeps you on your straight and narrow with the Lord, or whatever you believe
You have
in.
to find what works best for you.
Yeah. And I feel like I don't, from what I've like been taught about God, I personally don't feel like he would be a God that would be like, oh, what if I'm not here? Well, you could go to hell. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see that. I think,
I don't see that either.
yeah,
But also very new, still learning. I mean, everybody's still learning, right? But
I feel like I'm constantly learning.
yeah, but I agree. Like, Good. Okay. So next question. How do you feel about euthanasia, or what is also known as assisted suicide?
So this is when I feel like I probably break away from the stereotypical
Standard.
standard. I'm not, I feel like suicide has been such a taboo subject that it doesn't allow people, especially those who are struggling with a number of mental illnesses and physical illnesses and ailments, um, the right to decide for themselves, in fear of people not understanding their decisions, in fear of their family not understanding their decisions, in fear of coming from a strictly religious background where, if you commit suicide, you go to hell. I don't agree with that.
I don't either. I hold the same opinion that you do. It's something I am for, which is kind of starkly different from my classmates. They all, not all of them, but a good majority of them were against it because of their religion. And that's okay too. Like, that's totally their
And
opinions, and that's
yeah.
fine. But I know for me, if I were in that situation where I had a debilitating disease or disorder and I knew my function was going to eventually take a sharp dive, I would probably want to go before then, just because I wouldn't want to be remembered in
Yeah.
that manner. I wouldn't want to put that burden on my family. I wouldn't want to have to fight through every day like that. I would want to be able to be happy and enjoy my life with my child and our family and stuff until it was comfortable. And then when it became uncomfortable, I think I would want to
Mhm.
make that choice.
Yeah, I guess at the end of the day, while I myself am still a Christian and I am still for my beliefs, and at the end of the day, though, I also believe in human rights, and people should, it's their bodies. They need to be able to decide what to do with it. And I feel like like euthanasia or assisted suicide, especially in terms of debilitating or terminal diseases, especially those that are painful and cost, especially in the US. Okay, we don't have free healthcare.
Everything is so expensive.
Medical care is extremely expensive. I mean, that was why, when my grandmother got diagnosed with breast cancer, and they tried to do it out here in California because they're from Oregon, they needed help. She came out here to California. Their medical bills were literally draining all of their money that they've ever saved for, the funds from selling their house. It was just draining. So they went back to Spain, where
Mm-hmm.
they're originally from, for the
The
benefits
healthcare,
for the
healthcare
healthcare.
that, mhm.
I mean, and I think that sometimes too, obviously it's not free. Assisted suicide's not free.
And it's not something that's easily attainable either. It's not something that people can just go out and be like, okay, I'm done with this life.
And I feel
Gonna
like
get a
too,
doctor to do it for me.
in like youth and assisted suicide, you do have to, like, have both an MD doctor and then
You have to do a psych
clinical
eval. You have to do like
psychologist. Like, you
2
are
or
being
3 rounds.
you're being mentally evaluated, you're being medically evaluated, physically. So I feel like that I would rather support somebody who is going through that than, not, for lack of a easier way of saying this, like, than somebody like who shoots themselves or jumps off of a building.
Yes, somebody who decides to commit suicide in a different fashion.
Just especially like, I don't know. I feel like that is more of a selfish act, like where I could see where people are keeping the idea of a selfish act and like why they might stray away from assisted suicide in a medical sense. Because, like, somebody that jumps off a bridge and lands in the car with a 16-year-old driving it,
Yeah,
ruin somebody else's life by taking their own.
yeah.
On top of, who knows? I mean, that's not saying that it's still an important issue to address, and that is still somebody's choice. And, a lot of times somebody who is dealing with suicide has underlying mental issues.
Mhm. And they should be receiving the help that they are, but because they feel so lonely and isolated, there's other underlying issues, like you had said. So
Exactly. But I feel like sometimes with assisted suicide, people have a hard time separating what's actually happening in that sense. And they just think suicide as suicide bad.
Yep. Well, that person's now no longer
Hmm.
good in my eyes because they made this decision.
Yes.
You're
So,
right. The stigma about suicide is something that I'm sure steers a lot of people away from it, but
mhm.
also I think has a feeling that pushes people towards it
Yeah.
because they're already feeling so lonely and isolated. And they're like, well, might as well just keep doing it. Like,
And and that's not good either for a person's psyche, especially it's not good for the people around them. But I feel like too that's why it's important to reach out to your friends, especially right now when everybody's feeling very alone and you don't know what
how,
somebody's going through, and just because they seem like they're good, it's kind of like when Robin Williams committed suicide and everybody's like, check on your happiest friends. And it's true, like there's not everybody fits a stereotypical norm.
I love that man. I'm so sad he's gone. He's the only celebrity I cried over that died. Like, I'm serious. But you're right. It's a stigma and something needs to be done about it. More so than just don't do it.
Exactly. But I feel like in terms of assisted suicide medically, and there's medical reasons and that person's been evaluated, and kind of like the Me Before You book.
Yeah. Such a good one.
Like right? That one, I feel like if I was in a position of that matter or something similar.
He lived for a few years before they
Mhm.
allowed him to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
He
And I
really
mean,
gone a minute.
I would hate to not be able to have that like option if I felt like that was something that was viable for me. But then I would also hate the idea of thinking like those in a religious community, especially those who, Christian, would be like, oh, now you're going to go to hell. Like, what?
My reaction to that is like, well, you're going to join me because you're judging me now too. So,
And that's exactly at the beginning of this interview when I said, I don't think I have a place to judge anybody, and it's, treat others how you want to be treated. And at the end of the day, I have my relationship with the Lord. The Lord knows everything that I've ever done, that I've ever been through. If I was in that situation, what drove me to that point, and you know what? We'll see what happens.
everybody's
That's
going to have their moment. So,
and at the end of the day, it was my choice, and I don't think anybody should be stigmatized for it or have that right taken away from them,
yeah.
because it's you don't know what that person's going through, and you don't know what you would do if you were in their situation.
Because you don't know. You're not there. Like,
People have their ideologies, or they're like, well, I would, and it's like, okay, but would you? Like,
that's strong in your convictions that you think you wouldn't make that choice, because I know 100% I am not. If I know I am going to tank and I'm going to drown my family in debt, I'm going to be a burden on them just to take care of me, I'm not going to be able to communicate, I'm not going to be able to interact, I'm not going to be able to function the way that I am, it's not a life that I want.
yeah. And I've even told my mom before, because we've had, a couple of her friends, they've lost children in all kinds of accidents, and where they've been on life support for weeks, and those medical bills are just racking up, and the chance of survival is so minimal. And I told my mom that if I'm ever in that kind of a situation, pull the plug and take that month of $100,000 worth of medical bills and take yourselves on a grieving vacation to the Bahamas.
Yeah, go somewhere pretty, take my ashes with you, and just let's go party.
Just go like that. And that's exactly, I wouldn't want to be in that situation for myself. I wouldn't want to be laying in a hospital bed as a vegetable.
Me neither.
Or if my chances of survival were very, very minimal, and life had to be, I've told my mom, like, allow them to pull the plug, and
Don't drown yourselves in debt. Don't do it.
Not worth it, especially too, there's so many different medical ailments that a person could have, or that something could just happen to you, that they could realistically live or keep you alive. And is it worth it to keep a heart beating?
I'm so glad you brought this up because this is another conversation I was having the other day as well. We were naturally not made to live that long. It's unnatural for us to preserve life for as long as we do. If you think about it, like, we preserve people with cancer all the time. All of these COVID patients, we're saving all of these COVID patients. And don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful, amazing, like, huge blessing that we're able to do it, but it's also not the natural life cycle either.
Yeah. And I definitely agree with you to an extent. Like if it's amazing the technological advances that we've come to and that we do have and like what we have access to. But then at the same time, you know, and if you can save somebody and give them a quality life after they've been saved.
Quality.
And
I think
that's
it's the key. Quality.
quality. That, you know, that kind of goes back to my conversation with my mom that, you know, we had when she had a friend that they try to keep their son on life support. And they even told him, like, even if he does end up waking up on his own, he's not going to have a valuable life. He's relatively going to be in and out as a vegetable, or he won't be able to do this. He won't be able to get out of bed. He won't be able
to function. Mm-hmm.
And that's what I told him, like, even if that's my reality, even if they can save me, I don't want that. I don't want that. And that goes back to my, I'm not scared of death. It has to be better than this, right?
And we're such active people. Like, the fact that we're all having to stay inside right now kind of boggles my mind how nobody's losing it quite yet, because we're all constantly on the go. We all work full time. We're all in school full time. Like, you have your internship. Like,
I know. I feel so privileged to have these foothills, like, literally in my backyard.
Mm-hmm. I'm so lucky that I have a backyard to go to, that it's just, I'm very blessed right now. Very lucky.
I mean, and you have your little girl, so she keeps you active. And like, I don't know if you can see her. She's sleeping. She's normally a lot more active than this. If I don't walk her by the afternoon, she's like at me, like, are we gonna go for a walk?
That's Ellie lately. I'm sorry, I have a few more questions. So since we live in California, I don't know if you know this, but it is legal to do assisted suicide as long as you go through the right channels to do so. Is this something you would advocate for your family members? If this is like something your mom chooses to do, or your dad, or somebody who's near and dear to you, would you be able to advocate for that?
Out of respect, if that's what they wanted, and they were, you know, cleared for, this is a very valid and valuable option for them. I don't see why not, you know. I know that both of my parents are Christians and they've accepted the Lord, and
so they're ready to go when they go.
And, you know, if that's like, I feel like you have to that goes back to like respecting the choice and, you know, advocating for a human right, and so yeah.
I would have to agree. Mm-hmm. I think if I can make that decision for myself, I can support somebody else's decision to do it for themselves, because I wouldn't want somebody to try to take it away from me.
Exactly.
It's just not.
Yeah. I mean, and I'm not like, I feel
I'm
like
not in their shoes either.
Exactly. And I feel like it's important to point out that obviously in this conversation that it is, you know, relatively theoretical. And it would definitely be very difficult to probably cope with and come to terms with. But that's when I feel like, you know, we're able to decide that, yes, this is something I would do at the end of the day.
But I feel like that's when all the psych evaluations come into terms, when you have your medical doctors that you talk to them about. Like, this is not just something that, like I said earlier, just willy-nilly happens, that this is a long, drawn-out process, conversation, back and forth, over and over again. Are you sure that this is what you want? I think if they can withstand all that questioning and testing, then
definitely
it's their choice.
Definitely.
So last question. Do you think your religion offers you enough solace about death? And what makes you feel this way?
Yes. I don't know. I feel like I never really thought about it in that sense. I feel like it's you know, growing up, especially like going to church a lot, I feel like it was always it was always covered. And I feel like that's probably why I don't fear it. But yeah, I guess.
I know I mean, at least from what I've seen of the Christian religion, they do offer quite a bit of information and little tidbits here and there of what heaven is going to be like. Streets paved of gold, your family is going to be there with you, like you're going to have your whole body, and like there's just so many aspects that I think that they touch on that, at least from my experience doing the little bit of research that I have done, not a lot of other religions offer. From my
Yeah.
world religions class, it's just like, okay, well, you're gonna be in this life and cycle through this life until you reach a higher, like,
Yeah.
just gonna keep reincarnating and living this life over and over again. And I don't think that's necessarily true.
I don't want that. And you know, if I get reincarnated, I hope I come back as like a fat house cat because I don't I need a break.
You need to come back as your own Owen.
My own Owen. I almost had him in here for this. He was like hitting my door because I shut it on him and he was so mad at me.
He's offended.
Then he would be like,
how dare you?
I can't have
Sure.
it. He like sees the computer and he sits like right in front of it. And you know, it's a 20-pound cat. He sits there and I'm like, Owen, move. But so to go back to your question, I would say yes. And you know, kind of like you said, and even if, you know, it's not 100% accurate, like streets paved with gold, or like, even if it's not accurate in that sense, I still feel like that goes back to my, you know, kind of talking at the beginning of the interview of there is some truth in the underlying barriers. And that's kind of what I base my information off of, because it's been, you know, even the Bible has been rewritten, you know, or translated in so many different languages, so many different ways.
It's all interpreted differently.
Exactly.
Our own understanding of it. And I agree.
So I take the basic foundation of the teachings and go from there, you know, just because I feel like that's getting too much into it is what starts to cause the problems, especially because
the extremities, right?
Exactly. Where, you know, where did that person get this from, or this person disagrees, or what's going on with it. So I try to take the foundational principles that are being taught and the foundation of, you know, well, this is heaven and this is, you know, the piece of what's going to come for you when you're there. If the streets aren't lined with gold and I don't have a beautiful crown on my head, you know, I guess I could survive.
I'll be okay.
I'll be okay.
Thank you so much for talking with me today. We're actually over time, so I love
Glad I could be of assistance.
I appreciate you. Thank you for helping me.
Of course, of course.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye.
Bye.